All right, welcome to your deep dive, and today we're going to be talking all about cockroaches.
Oh boy.
I know, right? Not the most glamorous topic.
Not usually a crowd favorite.
Yeah, but honestly, even I was surprised by some of the things I learned while prepping for this.
Really?
Yeah, and you've sent in a really interesting mix of sources, too.
Oh, cool.
We've got some general cockroach info, some Nevada-specific stuff, so we're going to cover a lot of ground today.
Yeah, it is fascinating how a creature that, like, most people just have, like, a visceral reaction to
Oh, yeah.
can also be so incredibly successful,
Mm-hmm.
like, from an evolutionary standpoint.
That's what really got me, It's like 200 million-year-old fossils.
Wow.
I mean, these guys were scuttling around when dinosaurs were still a thing.
It's incredible.
The resilience, right?
It's not just surviving, though. It's thriving.
Mm-hmm.
They've adapted to almost every environment imaginable.
Wow.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Their diet can range from, like, decaying matter to book bindings.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much anything.
Seriously?
Yeah, and they can withstand temperatures that would fry most insects,
Crazy.
and even some of the harshest pesticides.
They're like little superbugs.
Pretty much.
So they're not just tough, they're like...
Yeah, the ultimate survivor.
Yeah, the ultimate survivors? Okay.
Yeah.
But how do they actually, live?
Right.
The sources talked about their life cycle, like...
Mhm.
egg, nymph, adult, like
Right.
what's actually happening in each of those stages?
Well, let's start with the eggs.
Okay.
They're not laid individually.
Oh,
They're actually encased in these capsules
wow.
called oothcae.
Oothicay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like,
Here.
picture a tiny purse about the size of a kidney bean,
Okay.
packed with anywhere from a dozen to 50 eggs.
50 eggs, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow, okay.
Some species drop them wherever, some glue them to surfaces.
Okay.
Some even carry them around for protection.
That's wild, okay.
Yeah.
So far, so creepy.
Yeah, so far so creepy.
Then the nymphs hatch.
Right.
What are those like?
Nymphs are basically mini roaches.
Okay.
They go through several molts.
Molts.
Yeah, shedding their exoskeletons as they grow.
Oh,
Kind of like how a snake sheds its skin, but obviously much smaller scale.
definitely not the kind of growing pains I envy.
No.
So we've got these ancient adaptable creatures
Mhm.
churning out babies by the dozens. It's amazing.
It is.
What else makes them such successful survivors?
Well, think about their senses.
Okay.
We tend to picture them scattering when the lights turn on.
Right.
But sight isn't really their primary tool. They rely heavily on their sense of smell.
Smell. Okay.
Yeah, sniffing out food and navigating their environment.
So it's like they're,
Like tiny walking noses.
yeah, tiny walking noses constantly searching for their next meal.
That's a good way to put it.
So all those crumbs under the couch,
Oh, yeah.
basically a beacon.
Like a buffet.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's also slightly terrifying.
It is a little bit, yeah.
But here's something else that surprised me. There are different types of cockroaches, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Not just like the cockroach.
No. There's a whole variety.
Yeah.
Even just in Nevada, you've got a pretty diverse cast of characters.
Okay, so what do we got?
Well, your sources highlighted what they called the Big Four.
The big four. Okay.
So you've got German brown-banded, Oriental, and American cockroaches.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They might all seem kind of similar at first glance.
Right.
But they each have their own quirks and preferred habitats.
Okay, let's break them down.
Right.
Starting with the German cockroach.
Okay. The German cockroach.
What sets them apart?
Well, besides being like the most common household pest in Nevada,
Oh, really?
they are the champions of reproduction.
Okay.
Remember those oothicay packed with dozens of eggs?
Oh, yeah.
A single female German cockroach can produce 4 to 8 of them.
4 to 8.
Yeah, in her lifetime.
Oh, my gosh.
It's no wonder infestations can seem to explode overnight.
Yeah, that's a lot of baby roaches.
It is.
Okay, onto the brown-banded cockroach. What's their deal?
They're a bit smaller than the Germans,
Okay.
and they have a unique habit. Their egg cases are incredibly sticky.
Sticky. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, they're glue, basically. Yeah, so they glue them to practically anything,
Oh, no.
which helps them spread easily.
Oh, I see.
Imagine them hitching a ride on a box or a piece of furniture. It's like their own personal dispersal system.
Okay. That is both clever
Mm-hmm.
and incredibly disturbing.
Yeah,
Okay, 2 down, 2 to go.
right.
What about the Oriental cockroach?
Those are the moisture lovers.
Okay.
Think damp basements, drains, sewers.
Oh, okay.
That's where they thrive.
So like sewer roach, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Lovely. Okay.
They're not as common in homes as like the Germans or brown banded.
Okay.
But when they do show up,
Yeah.
it's usually a sign of a moisture problem.
Oh, got it.
It
Okay.
needs to be addressed.
And lastly, the American cockroach.
Okay, the American cockroach,
What distinguishes them?
those are the heavyweights.
Oh, really?
They can grow over 1.5 inches long.
Whoa.
Yeah, and while they prefer damp areas, they're more adaptable than their oriental cousins.
Oh, okay.
You might find them in basements, kitchens, restaurants,
Oh, wow.
anywhere they can find food and water.
So it's like a whole team of roaches,
Pretty much.
each with its own special talent for infesting our homes.
Yeah, they've each got their niche.
Okay, so at this point, I think everyone's feeling the ick factor.
I would imagine so.
But beyond just being gross, why do we really care about these guys?
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about aesthetics.
Okay.
It's about health.
Oh, okay.
While cockroaches aren't like mosquitoes, directly injecting diseases into us,
Hey.
they're what we call mechanical vectors.
Mechanical vectors.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Think of them as tiny six-legged buses for bacteria.
Ew.
They crawl through sewage, garbage, all sorts of unsavory places,
Right.
picking up pathogens on their bodies.
Okay.
And then they stroll into your kitchen,
Yeah.
potentially contaminating your food, utensils, surfaces.
So not the kind of public transportation I'm interested in.
No, not at all.
Okay, so what specific health risks are we talking about?
Well, your sources mentioned dysentery,
Okay.
diarrhea, food poisoning,
Right.
all thanks to bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli
Oh, gosh.
that roaches can carry on their bodies.
Okay, those are definitely things I want to avoid.
I would think so.
Anything else we should be worried about?
Even if you're lucky enough to avoid getting sick directly,
Yeah.
there's the allergy issue.
Oh, right.
Cockroach droppings and shed skins
Mm-hmm.
can trigger allergies and asthma,
Oh, no.
especially in people who are sensitive.
So they're not just gross, they're a legitimate health hazard.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, but let's shift gears.
Okay,
Get a little more local.
right.
The sources had some interesting Nevada-specific information, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
For instance, the field cockroach, which is a close relative of the German cockroach.
Mm-hmm.
It's found not only in irrigated areas,
Okay.
but also deep in the Nevada desert.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Out in the desert, what are they even eating out there?
They're scavengers.
Right.
They can survive on dead insects, plant debris, animal droppings.
Wow.
They're not picky eaters.
Well, I'm impressed and slightly horrified.
Yeah, that's fair.
Any other Nevada-specific cockroach surprises?
There's the Turkestan cockroach.
Turkestan cockroach. Okay.
Yeah, it's a relative newcomer
Oh.
that's been displacing the oriental cockroach,
Oh, interesting.
particularly in urban areas.
Mm.
It's happening nationwide, but it's especially noticeable in the southwest.
Okay.
Now, the females are often confused with oriental cockroaches because of their dark brown color,
I see.
but they're a bit smaller, and they have cream-colored markings along their edges.
Oh, okay.
Males, on the other hand, are often mistaken for American cockroaches, but they're slightly smaller
Okay.
and have yellowish tan wings with cream-colored stripes.
So there's like a cockroach turf war happening
Kinda, yeah.
right under our noses.
Right under our nose.
But enough about identifying them.
Right.
I think at this point, everyone listening is wondering the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get rid of these things?
Good question.
They sound practically invincible.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
They're formidable opponents.
Right.
But control is possible.
Okay.
Just requires a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
The key is integrated pest management,
Mm-hmm.
which combines different strategies for long-term success.
Okay. I'm all ears. What's step one?
Step one, and this cannot be overstated,
Okay.
is sanitation.
Okay.
You absolutely must deny them access to food, water, and shelter.
So keep the kitchen spotless.
Yes.
Store food in airtight container.
Yes.
Fix leaks.
Yes.
Basically, make the house as unappealing to roaches as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, got it. But what about when a good cleaning isn't enough?
Right.
What are our options for chemical control?
That's where things get a little tricky.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about their adaptability?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that includes developing resistance to insecticides.
Oh, no. So they're basically evolving to withstand our chemical weapons.
They are.
That's not good.
It's a significant challenge.
Right.
It's why it's so important to use insecticides responsibly
Mm-hmm.
as part of a broader strategy.
So we need to be strategic.
Yes.
Almost like generals planning a battle.
I like that analogy.
Speaking of which, are there any, like, heavy-duty options?
Yeah.
Like professional grade treatments that can give us a fighting chance?
There are certainly some powerful tools available
Okay.
to licensed pest control operators.
Like what?
Well, for example, they have access to growth regulators.
Growth regulators.
Yeah, which are chemicals that interfere with the roach's development,
Oh.
preventing them from reaching maturity and reproducing.
So it's like a form of cockroach birth control.
Exactly.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's pretty effective.
What else do the pros have up their sleeves?
They also use insecticidal baits that are designed with a slow-acting poison.
Slow acting.
This allows the roaches to carry the lethal dose back to their nests.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, and share it with their buddies before they succumb to it.
Trojan horse approach.
Exactly.
Very clever.
It is.
But what about us regular folks?
Right.
Are there any, like, safe and effective products we can use ourselves?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But remember, it's all about choosing the right tool for the job
Mm-hmm.
and using it correctly.
Right.
For example, we mentioned boric acid earlier.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good option for cracks and crevices.
Okay.
Working as a desiccant,
Desiccant.
it dries out their exoskeletons
Oh, okay.
and eventually kills them.
So it's like death by dehydration.
Pretty much.
Kind of fitting, considering how they love those, like, damp, dark places.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic.
But you mentioned using it correctly.
Right.
Any tips for folks using boric acid at home?
First, always opt for food-grade boric acid,
Okay.
as it's the safest option,
Right.
especially if you have kids or pets.
Makes sense.
And remember, it's not a quick fix.
Okay.
It takes time for boric acid to work its magic.
Got it.
So be patient and consistent with your application.
Patience is key. Okay.
Exactly.
What about those sticky traps?
So
Are they actually effective?
they are helpful,
Okay.
but more as a monitoring tool than a control method.
Oh, okay.
They can give you valuable intel about where the cockroaches are most active
Oh, okay.
and help you gauge the severity of the infestation.
Got it.
You might catch a few stragglers,
Right.
but they won't eliminate a major infestation on their own.
So traps are for intelligence gathering, not direct combat.
That's a good way to put it.
Makes sense. But before we get too caught up in fighting the enemy,
Yeah.
let's step back and talk prevention.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
What can we do to make our homes less attractive to roaches in the first place?
Excellent point. Prevention is always the best strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes back to those three key elements we talked about earlier.
Food, water, shelter.
Exactly.
Eliminate those.
Yeah.
You make your home a much less desirable destination
Right.
for cockroaches.
Nobody wants to go to a party where there's no food or drinks.
So keep it clean, fix leaks, seal cracks, the usual suspects.
Mm-hmm.
But are there any less obvious things that we might be overlooking?
Absolutely. Think about entry points.
Entry points.
Yeah, cockroaches can squeeze through incredibly tiny spaces.
Really?
So it's important to seal up any potential entry points.
Like what?
Gaps around doors and windows, cracks
Yeah.
around pipes and utility lines.
Right.
Even vents and drains should be screened or sealed.
So it's like building a fortress
Exactly.
against these tiny invaders.
I like that analogy.
Speaking of which, are there any, like, early warning signs
Oh, yeah.
that we might have an infestation brewing, even if we haven't seen any actual roaches yet?
Keep your eyes peeled for their calling cards.
Okay.
Droppings,
Drop things.
which look like tiny black specks,
Right.
are a telltale sign,
I see.
especially in areas where food is stored or prepared.
Okay.
You might also find shed skins, egg cases,
Oh,
even dead roaches.
right.
And of course, if you see live roaches scurrying around during the day,
Oh, yeah.
that's a pretty sure sign you have a problem on your hands.
Okay, those are the red flags to watch for.
Exactly.
What about that distinctive cockroach smell?
Right.
Is that always a reliable indicator?
The smell can be a clue,
Okay.
especially in heavy infestations.
I see.
It's often described as musty or oily,
Mm-hmm.
and it can linger even after the roaches are gone.
Oh, God.
However, it's not always present, especially in the early stages.
Okay, so don't rely on your nose alone.
No.
You need to be like a cockroach detective.
You do.
Gathering evidence, looking for clues.
Exactly.
This has been incredibly helpful.
Oh,
I'm feeling much more empowered
good.
to tackle these creatures head on.
That's the spirit.
It's not just about killing them, though, right?
Right.
It's about creating an environment where
Yeah.
they just can't thrive.
Exactly. Shifting from a reactive approach
Mm-hmm.
to a proactive one.
Okay.
Don't wait for the problem to appear.
Right.
Take steps to prevent it from happening in the first place.
I love that mindset. We're not just exterminators. We're like cockroach architects,
I like that.
designing spaces
Yes.
that are inhospitable to
Yeah.
those little invaders.
That's a great way to think about it.
And remember, it's an ongoing process.
It is.
Cockroaches are constantly evolving and adapting.
Yeah, they are.
So we need to stay vigilant and adjust our strategies accordingly.
That's right.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this segment.
We have.
From professional grade treatments to DIY solutions, prevention tips, early warning signs. We've even delved into a bit of cockroach psychology.
We have.
We're not done yet.
Oh.
In part 2, we're going to explore some alternative approaches to cockroach control,
No.
including natural remedies
Oh.
and some surprising insights from the world of biomimicry.
I'm intrigued.
I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we'll see you in part 2.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, while we were discussing those different types of cockroaches found in Nevada,
Mm-hmm.
I was reminded of a study I read
Okay.
about German cockroaches
Mm-hmm.
and their remarkable ability to develop resistance
Okay.
to multiple insecticides
Oh, wow.
simultaneously.
Whoa. Hold on. Simultaneously?
Yes.
You mean they can become immune to, like, a whole arsenal of poisons at once?
That's essentially what it is, yeah.
That's kind of terrifying.
It's called cross-resistance.
Aircraft resistance.
And it is a growing concern in pest management.
Right. Right.
Basically, if you constantly hit a population with the same type of insecticide,
Yeah.
the survivors
Mm-hmm.
can develop a resistance not only to that specific chemical,
Oh, wow.
but also to others that work in similar ways.
It's like they're leveling up their defenses.
That's a good way to put it.
This makes our fight against them even harder, doesn't it?
It definitely complicates things.
Yeah.
That's why integrated pest management is so crucial.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be smarter than the roaches,
Right.
using a variety of tactics to outmaneuver them.
So we need to be strategic.
Yes,
Almost like generals planning a battle.
exactly.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
are there any heavy booty options?
Mm-hmm.
Like professional grade treatments that can give us a fighting chance?
There are certainly some powerful tools
Okay.
available to licensed pest control operators.
Okay. Like what?
Well, for example, they have access to growth regulators.
Or with regulators. Okay.
These are chemicals that interfere with the roach's development,
Oh.
preventing them from reaching maturity and reproducing.
So it's like a form of cockroach birth control.
Precisely.
I love that idea.
Yeah. It's very effective.
What else do the pros have up their sleeves?
They also use insecticidal baits
Okay.
designed with a slow-acting poison.
Flow acting. Okay.
Yeah, this allows the roaches to carry the lethal dose back to their nests
Oh, I saw
and
it.
share it with their buddies before they succumb to it.
So it's still the Trojan horse approach.
Exactly.
Very clever.
It is.
But what about us regular folks?
Right.
Are there any like safe and effective products that we can use ourselves?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But remember, it's all about choosing the right tool for the job
Mm-hmm.
and using it correctly.
Right.
For example, we mentioned boric acid earlier.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good option for cracks and crevices,
Okay.
working as a desiccant,
The second. Right.
meaning it dries out the roach's exoskeletons
Okay.
and eventually kills them.
So it's still death by dehydration?
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of fitting, considering how they love those damp, dark places.
It is, yeah.
But you mentioned using it correctly. Any tips for folks using boric acid at home?
Sure. First, always opt for food-grade boric acid.
Okay.
That's the safest option,
Right.
especially if you have kids or pets.
Makes sense.
And remember, it's not a quick fix.
Okay.
It takes time for boric acid to work its magic.
Okay.
So be patient and consistent with your application.
Got it. Patience is key.
Mm-hmm.
What about those sticky traps?
Sticky traps.
Yeah.
They are helpful,
Okay.
more as a monitoring tool
Oh, okay.
than a control method.
Got it.
They can give you valuable intel
Okay.
about where the cockroaches are most active
Right.
and help you gauge the severity of the infestation.
Got it.
You might catch a few stragglers,
Right.
but they won't eliminate a major infestation on their own.
So traps are for intelligence gathering,
Yeah.
not direct combat.
That's a great way to put it.
Makes sense. But before we get too caught up in fighting the enemy,
Right.
let's step back and talk prevention.
Okay. Good idea.
What can we do to make our homes less attractive to roaches in the first place?
Excellent point.
Mm-hmm.
Prevention is always the best strategy.
Right.
It all comes back to those three key elements we
Yeah.
talked about earlier. Food, water, and shelter.
Right.
You eliminate those,
Mm-hmm.
you make your home a much less desirable destination for cockroaches.
So keep it clean, fix leaks, Seal cracks.
The usual suspects.
Right. But are there any less obvious things that we might be overlooking?
Absolutely. Think about entry points.
Entry points, okay.
Cockroaches can squeeze through incredibly tiny spaces.
Wow, really?
So it's important to seal up any potential entry points.
Like what?
Gaps around doors and windows, cracks around pipes and utility lines.
Right.
Even vents and drains should be screened or sealed.
It's like building a fortress against these tiny invaders.
It is, yeah.
Speaking of which, are there any early warning signs that we might have an infestation brewing?
Right?
Even if we haven't seen any actual roaches yet?
Keep your eyes peeled for what I call their calling cards.
Calling cards, okay.
So droppings, which look like tiny black specks,
Okay.
or a telltale sign.
Right, yeah.
Especially in areas where food is stored or prepared.
Okay.
You might also find shed skins, egg cases, even dead roaches.
Oh.
And of course, if you see live roaches scurrying around during the day,
Right.
that's a pretty sure sign that you've got a problem on your hands.
Okay, so those are the red flags to watch for.
Those are the red flags.
What about that distinctive cockroach smell?
Right.
Is that always a reliable indicator?
The smell can be a clue,
Okay.
especially in heavy infestations. It's often described as musty or oily,
Yeah.
and it can linger even after the roaches are gone.
Oh, God, okay.
However, it's not always present, especially in the early stages.
So don't rely on your nose alone.
Oh,
You need to be a cockroach detective.
that's right.
Gathering evidence,
Yeah.
looking for clues.
That's the idea.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful.
I'm glad it has.
I am feeling much more empowered to tackle these creatures head on.
Yes, the spirit.
It's not just about killing them, though, right?
Yeah.
It's about creating an environment where they just can't thrive
Exactly.
in the first place.
It's about shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive one.
Yeah,
Don't wait for the problem to appear. Take steps to prevent it from happening
right.
in the first place.
I love that mindset. We're not just exterminators. We're like cockroach architects
I like it.
designing spaces
Yes.
that are inhospitable to those little invaders.
That's a great way to put it.
It's an ongoing process, though, right?
It is, yeah.
Cockroaches are constantly evolving and adapting,
Right.
so we need to stay vigilant and adjust our strategies accordingly.
That's correct.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this segment,
We have.
from professional grade treatments to DIY solutions, prevention tips,
Yes.
early warning signs. We even delved into a bit of cockroach psychology,
That's right.
but we're not done yet.
Oh,
In part 3, we're going to explore some alternative approaches to cockroach control,
okay.
including natural remedies
All
and some surprising insights from the world of biomimicry.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Welcome back to the show. And, I gotta say, after our last 2 segments, I'm feeling a lot more knowledgeable,
Good, good.
maybe even a little less squeamish about these creatures.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah, yeah.
A little less ick, a little more wow,
Exactly. And we've got one more fascinating area to explore.
Oh.
Alternative approaches
Okay.
to cockroach control.
All right.
Because, just like roaches have adapted over millions of years,
Right.
so have we humans in finding ways to deal with them.
Yeah, yeah.
So bring on the alternatives.
Right.
The sources mention natural remedies. Is this like surrounding your house with essential oils and hoping for the best?
Not quite that mystical,
Okay.
but there are some natural substances
Okay.
that have repellent or insecticidal properties
Oh, cool.
that are worth exploring.
Like what?
Well, for example, bay leaves
Bay leaves, really?
give off an aroma that cockroaches find offensive.
I see.
Placing them in cupboards or other problem areas
Okay.
might help deter them,
So like a cockroach potpourri.
basically. Yeah,
I can just imagine Pinterest exploding
I know, right?
with DIY roach repelling crafts.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's diatomaceous earth.
Okay, diatomaceous earth.
That rings a bell. I think I've seen it at garden centers.
Yeah, you probably have.
What makes it effective against roaches?
It works similarly to boric acid,
Okay.
but in a purely mechanical way.
Okay.
The microscopic particles of diatomaceous earth are actually very sharp,
Oh, I see.
and they damage the roach's exoskeletons,
Oh.
leading to dehydration.
So it's like death by 1,000 tiny cuts.
Kind of, yeah.
Yikes. Is it safe to use around pets and kids?
Generally, yes.
Okay.
But it's crucial to choose food-grade diatomaceous earth,
Food grade. Okay.
as that's the safest option.
Right.
And As with any substance, always follow the label instructions carefully.
Safety first.
Absolutely.
But moving beyond these specific substances, you mentioned something called biomimicry. Using nature as inspiration for pest control.
Right.
What exactly does that entail?
Well, it's a fascinating field.
Okay.
It's all about looking to nature for solutions to human problems.
Interesting.
And in the case of cockroaches,
Yeah.
researchers are studying their natural predators
Predators, okay.
for inspiration.
Uh-huh.
Well, like geckos.
Oh, yeah, geckos. I've seen those little guys snatch bugs out of the air with, like, lightning speed.
Exactly.
Oh.
Certain species of wasps
Okay.
that paralyze and lay their eggs inside cockroaches.
Oh, that's a little creepy.
Even fungi that specifically target and infect cockroaches.
Wow. Okay.
Understanding how these organisms effectively control roach populations could lead to new, more targeted, and ecologically friendly pest control methods.
So instead of trying to out-chemical them, we're looking to nature's own pest control experts.
Exactly. That's a pretty awesome approach.
It is.
It feels like after all the ick and the ew, there's a glimmer of hope on the horizon.
There is.
For dealing with these creatures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even creatures we might find repulsive have their place in the natural world.
Yeah.
And understanding those roles can help us find better ways to coexist.
Well said. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that cockroaches are survivors. They've been around for millions of years, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
But by arming ourselves with knowledge about their biology, their behavior, their vulnerabilities, we can definitely manage them effectively and minimize the risks they pose.
I love that. To our listener,
a huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cockroaches.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope you've learned something new, maybe even developed a grudging respect for these remarkably resilient creatures.
Definitely.
And remember, if you ever find yourself face-to-face with a cockroach, don't panic.
Right.
You've got the knowledge and the tools to handle the situation.
You do.
Stay curious, stay informed.
Absolutely.
And remember, even cockroaches have their role to play in the grand scheme of things.
I agree.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time.
See you next time.
Happy exploring